one, go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quia Querisma. Thank you so much for joining me today for cutting and styling for curly hair. Thanks so much for your time today. I know you can be doing lots of other things, so I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. So just really quick, I'd like to go over what I like to call the code of the class. I'd like for you to keep your Zooms on mute so we don't get any background noise. Also utilize the chat for questions. My counterpart, Rebecca, is going to come off mute and let me know when I have questions if I happen to be working. And then at the very end, we're going to do a quick Q&A to answer any questions that maybe that, kind of came up in context or anything like that. So a little bit about me. I am based in Dallas, Texas. I am an independent stylist. My Instagram is Kia Loves Hair. I decided to specialize in curly hair at the very beginning of my career. So I do this day in and day out. I chose curly hair because according to the census, more than 60% of the population has what can be described as curly or textured hair. And a lot of times there's still not enough stylists that feel confident enough to approach textured hair. And so I chose to be part of the solution. And just a fun fact about me, I have 2 adult children. And this is my second career. I spent about 14 years in corporate marketing. And this was like the best decision ever. I really love what I do. Being able to interact with the clients every day and interact with other professionals and learn and all that great stuff. So that is my welcome page. We'll just really quick, what we are going to go over today. First, we're going to start out by talking about texture types. That's usually when people talk about, if their hair is type 1 through 4, and then there's an alphabet in there. And then I'm going to go into the curly cutting demo. I'm going to demo a round layered haircut. And honestly, that's the most popular one. I get the most requests for that. I like to call that the Instagram hair. And then finally, I will demonstrate how to apply the products, their best uses, and then also diffusing. So texture types. Textured hair can be broken down to straight, wavy, curly, and coily. Your type 1 is going to be straight, type 2 is wavy, type 3 is curly, and type 4 is coily. And just, due to time limitations and stuff like that, we're going to focus on type 3 hair. We're going to focus on curls. And the interesting part about texture types is that they all can be represented in certain ways. So I would say the first 3 are a type 4. I would describe that hair as coily, but type 4 through 8 all fall into type 3. Now, I really don't like to get into, is it 3A or 3B? Because mainly, most people don't have uniform curls across their head. Most people have 2, sometimes 3 texture types in their hair. And so like getting into the weeds about, what letter number combination they are, honestly, it's not really helpful and it can create more confusion. We're going to focus on curls, not waves, not coils. So, sound good? Everybody still with me? And if you're able to, please go ahead and utilize the chat. Let me know if you're still following along, if you have any questions, or if you need me to repeat anything. So we are going to jump right in to the cutting and styling demo. I'm going to mute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen first. Mute this one. All right. All right, so Becca, can everyone hear me? Are we still good?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so in an ideal situation, you would have your client come with their hair in like day 2 or day 3 curls. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of times, based on the clientele you all guys get, that they're not going to do any pre-work, and so it's totally up to you. So bearing that in mind, I intentionally didn't pre-wash or prep this mannequin. So she's going to be representative of a typical walk-in. So first things first, you don't want to approach textured hair, dry textured hair with a fine tooth comb or a brush. You want to gently separate with your fingers, and you can also use a leave-in conditioner like Ego Boost to help with that if you run into any tangles like that. So that was just one pump. I'm going to melt that in between my hands, and I'm going to help use this to release the curls, because curls like to hide within each other. And in order to get the best possible shape, you want to have them as fluffed out as possible. And that's mainly why I like working on day 2 and day 3 hair. If the hair isn't flat, then you can see the shape happening while you work. So I tend to work with about 6 clips, and you're going to start at the front of the head. You're going to take a profile parting, front to back. And I'll turn the mannequin around as we start working on different sides. And there's going to be a lot of clipping and unclipping, but working in sections is the best way for you to not get lost in what you're doing. So now we're going to outline the frame of the haircut. That's going to be your perimeter. So about 1.5 inches from the hairline. Let me tilt her down a little bit so you can see. About right here, you're going to take your diagonal back, and you're going to bring it all the way around to behind the occipital bone and clip this away. I'll show you what that looks like. So we've got that here. You've got her perimeter sectioned out. And then we're just going to do the same on the other side. Let me know in the chat if you have encountered curly hair at your shop, and how did you feel about working on it? Okay, so we've got her perimeter sectioned out. Want to get one more pump of your Ego Boost, and then we're going to smooth the ends, because that's going to help clarify what we're doing. You're going to use prayer hands and just gently smooth down. You don't want to use too much tension, because curls tend to shrink, and you don't want to accidentally cut the hair too short because you stretch the curls out too much. Hopefully I don't trip myself here. Okay, so where are my shears? Oh my gosh. Hold, please. I need to go grab them. Things can't go smoothly, right? But I'm ready now. So we're going to start from the front. I'm going to turn her a little bit so you can see that I'm going to start working on the left side. And then this is where you're going to decide exactly how much length you're going to cut off. And so for this one, I'm going to cut about right here above the scraggly end. So we're going to cut those ends off and give her like a nice clean haircut. Hopefully I'm not breathing too hard at y'all. Becca, do we have any questions?
Not so far.
Okay. Okay, so we've got that left side cut. You see we've got a nice clean line here. And this builds a base frame for your final hair, your finished look. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. Actually, let me start here in the front so you can make sure your lengths are even. Zero elevation, light tension. There's my guide. All right, so we've got our guide for the right side. And we're just going to follow along again. Curly hair cutting is part technical, part visual. So lots of people have different ways of approaching it. I learned 4 different cutting systems. I have 3 different certifications. And based on the hair that's in front of me, I actually use all of them. So what you're learning today is just kind of a combination of what works best. So we've got our perimeter put in. And now we're going to do our cutting guides. Take this down. I want to put a little bit more leave-in on this section that I'm working on so that we're not really ripping through the hair. We don't ever want to do that. When working with dry hair, you want to manipulate with open fingers so you're not causing undue tension. And so I like to call this the headband section. Tilt her down some. And we are going to make a horizontal part, one in front of the ear. Again. One parting in front of the ear. The other parting behind the ear. I'm going to clean this parting up. And then we're going to clip the front. Got this here. Clip the back to keep it out of the way. We're going to build our guide from this section. Then we're going to repeat on the other side. This is why I use so many clips. So let's find her ear. In front of the ear section. And then a section behind the ear. Put these out of the way. Okay, here is where we're going to start building the guide. Starting from the bottom, because that's your guide to length, we are going to work in 1-inch sections. So pull this out directly out from the head. That's my guide right here. We're going to cut split this section in half. Go back and get another piece, another 1-inch piece. Hold this out directly from the head. Gentle tension. And we cut. And then we're going to follow this same action all the way until we get to the top of the head. Right here, see, here's our guide. And this is going to be our last piece on this side. And then we're going to repeat the same on the other side. So, got our guide right here. Split your section, 1 inch up, directly out from the head. We'll move this over a bit. Go. And it looks like her hair is a little bit shorter on this side. That is normal, something you may even see with your guests. I have some guests that have more hair on one side of their head compared to the other. So that makes things interesting when you're trying to create balance. And so we are going to get the center from both sides, make sure they line up. We've got a little bit longer here. And so now our guide is even. We are going to, let me tilt her down so you can see. Okay, here we go. This is like working backwards. So we're going to leave that front clipped away, split in half, but then we're going to take your profile section again, make sure we've got everything out. You can tuck your guide on the opposing side in so that you don't accidentally cut it. Keeping clean sections is going to be your key to not getting lost in textured hair, because a lot of times people with curly hair either have more density, and then also manipulating curls does make the hair expand. And so it'll get bigger the more you manipulate it. I'm going to turn her on the side profile so you can see the next step. Now we're going to take about a 1-inch section from the top of the head. We're going to incorporate our guide here and go straight back. We're not going to use this section yet. Clip it out of the way. And then starting from the center, lift this up some. Starting from the center, we have our guide right here. Let's see if you can see it. There we go. And so we're going to cut off the excess. Not out of the way. Pick up your next section. Straight out from the head shape. Cut. Out. Low tension. Keeping it going. And I know you all work on a productivity bonus on your cuts per hour. And the good thing about this cut is that once you get the hang of it, you really should be able to finish it in about 20 minutes. if that, depending on how much hair the client has.
Kia,
Yes?
we have a question.
Excellent.
Is there any concern about using Ego Boost as the cutting tool for your shears?
No. Ego Boost kind of absorbs into the hair, so it's not disruptive when you're cutting. We're down to the last section here, straight out from the head shape. More clipping. We're going to clip this over out of the way so we don't accidentally cut it again. And then we're going to make another section going to the back of the head. We want to try to keep these sections as clean as possible to help with uniformity. And then as you start to get to where the head rounds on the side, make sure you're not over directing back up and you're staying directly out from the head shape. This was one of the first curly hair cutting techniques that I learned, and honestly, it transformed my haircuts practically overnight. It was very easy to learn, which is why this is the one that I love to teach in my introductory classes. Follow this along, get them down to the back. Just a little bit to cut off. And we are going to clip this other cut section back with the rest. And tilt her upright so I'm not tearing up my back. Okay. Straight out from the head shape. Here's my guide, you see it? We're gonna work our way back. And if you get to a point where it doesn't seem like there's a lot to cut, don't worry about that. Okay, so we'll turn her back forward so then you can see how the shape has changed after we've cut. Yeah.
One more quick question.
Sure.
You're holding each section at a 90 degrees?
Yes, 90 degrees from the head. And you can see the shape taking form. I'm glad I didn't wear black today, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see. And this is honestly, this is my favorite part of curly hair cutting because you can see the shape happening while you work. So to do the front, we are going to take our headband section out again. Remember, it was in front of the ear and behind the ear. We're going to release the front, fluff that back out. Put a little bit more of the Ego Boost on here, smooth it into the hair. And then we are going to take the exact same approach that we did in the front. So this is going to be our first section that we're working with. here, we're gonna start in the front and work our way to the center of her head. Because again, when we cut out the frame, that was our guide to length. 90 degrees from the head shape, there's barely any to cut right there. Split that in half and continue working. Got a little bit more to cut here. And we're definitely going to go into styling and which products to use, but also a lot of times this can be like a walk-in haircut. And by that I mean they come in, you go ahead and do the cut, and honestly, they can go ahead and leave. I call that an express curly cut at my shop, and that's a 30-minute appointment for me. Also because I like to romance the hair. That's just how I do things. But it allows them to quickly get in and out. They've got their haircut. And a lot of times, the bigger curly hair is, the more fun it looks. Rearrange this back.
Okay, we've got another question.
Sure.
How would it change the shape of the hair if you did a 45-degree instead?
It wouldn't be round. You'd start building graduation. That would be the difference. And it looks like I missed one. So what I meant about curly hair cutting being part technical, part visual, all the sectioning was technical, but you see I missed something, so you can clean that up visually. And this is already looking pretty exciting here, in my opinion. So we're gonna put this away.
We've got another question.
Sure.
How would the shape of this cut differ from if it were to do pie sections instead?
Honestly, I haven't done it with pie sections, so I don't have an answer for that one. So we've got our guide out here. And honestly, like I mentioned, I learned 4 different cutting systems. There are so many ways to go about this. So I would actually encourage you to try it out on a mannequin and see what your results look like by using different elevation, different sectioning. I remember I showed this technique to a colleague of mine, and he told me that he can do it faster using different sectioning. And I said, that's amazing, but I can't teach it that way. So this is how I go about it. But yeah, there's definitely no one way to go about this. Because we're artists after all, right? And creativity is subjective. And if you're looking for doll heads to use, I prefer the Pivot Point Janet because her hair is longer, and so you can get more haircuts out of her. Amber also has curly hair, but her hair's pretty short, so you won't get as many cuts on her.
Okay, another question. Is low tension a concern if they straighten?
Let's see. Honestly, you want, whether or not they straighten their hair, you want to cut the curls where they live. I recommend curly haircuts like this for people who wear their hair curly, like 80–90% of the time, because if you straighten this, you're not gonna get clean lines. You can blow it out and then curl it, and that'll kind of camouflage the unevenness on the ends. But curly cuts never leave plain lines. That's just not a thing that happens with this cut, unfortunately. Let me know if I answered your question or not. I forgot to adjust the in here, and it is hot.
Elaine said, yes, you did. Thank you. You did.
You see, as we're getting down to the nape, we're meeting our guide to length, which is very little variation there. So yay, that is something you always want to see. That means you're on the right track and you haven't kind of jacked up your elevation. I think I might have made that section kind of big. So we are going to go straight into this last section. Trying to make sure I just have enough time to show you all everything working efficiently. All right, and then we're going to do the front. Take out our section behind the ear one more time. I feel like I should have some ambient music. I need to keep that in mind for next time. A bit more lead in, kind of loosen up this curls that we've clumped together. And you'll notice that I'm not going crazy with the ego boost because the goal is to just kind of moisten the hair. We don't want to make it wet because that's going to affect the curl shape. I personally prefer to do all of my cutting dry because then there won't be any surprises when there's a differentiation, when the shrinkage happens. So of course, you know, I'm sure we've all seen that curly hair, when you wet it, a lot of times it'll straighten out. If you cut it that way and then it shrinks up, a lot of times people end up with like square haircuts, and that's not what they were looking for. So this is why I do all of my cutting dry. And I know people who cut wet, they do excellent work. This is just my personal preference. Bring her back to the middle so I don't make crooked lines. Let me know in the chat, has anyone tried cutting curly hair before? And if you have, what was your experience like?
We do have a question first.
Sure.
Could you still do this haircut dry if they have knots that you can't get out with just your fingers?
No. you need to be able to kind of pull the hair apart freely, because the knots, it's not going to be a true representation of how their curls will lay when it's properly styled. So you want to try to get through and release as many tangles as possible before you start cutting and sectioning and cutting. This is going to be my last section here. Barely anything to cut. I'm going to take all of her clips out. Now we need to assess the cut and visually determine what needs to be refined. Bring her up, center parting, a nice balanced shape here. So like that, look at that. Go ahead and get that. Sorry. And unlike straight haircuts, 2D haircuts, curly cuts are 3D. So you want to assess them from all angles. You want to look at your side profile to make sure that your round graduation is doing what you need it to do. Look at it from the back. Make sure your shape is still following your desired outcome. Then again, from the other side. All right. She looks good. So a handful of my clients, they want an express cut, they'd leave just like this. But we're going to go into styling. So really quick, I am going to dip back over to my slides so I can talk you through each product use, and then we'll come back and I will let you know what I'm choosing to use on her hair, the application, and then diffusing.
Quia,
yes.
At the beginning of the presentation, you told us what percentage of people have curly hair. Can you repeat that percentage?
I believe it was 60%. It was like a Nielsen survey. It's kind of old, so I'm sure there's more now. But yeah.
And Megan is telling us, Megan does have some experience with wavy and curly hair. However, typically it's straight across the back and minimal layering, if any.
Okay. Okay, can you all hear me? Yes, okay, great. Spotlighted me for everyone. We're going to go back to my presentation real quick. Okay, so key points about our products here. So we've got the Ego Boost leave-in split-in mender. I really like it because it is lightweight, it absorbs into the hair, and it's great for all hair types from fine to coarse. And it helps smooth split ends, frizz, it moisturizes the hair, and of course it makes it easier to comb. It nourishes the hair with hydrolyzed keratin, and it can be applied to both wet and dry hair. There are times that I've used this on clients after I've washed their hair. Some clients, their hair just tends to tangle, that's just how it is. It's just tangly in nature. And Ego Boost does help significantly to get those tangles out before I start styling. So this is what I'm going to end up using today to style our mannequin. This is the Foxy Curls Contour Cream. And I really love it for fine hair because it's really lightweight. It's not going to weigh the hair down. It fights frizz, it keeps curls defined, And it also is a light hold, so you won't get that product cast. The hair still feels really soft to the touch, not crunchy. Includes argan oil for antioxidants and vitamin E for moisture and to condition the hair. And you would apply this to damp hair. All of the stylers I'm going to use, you can air dry, or you can diffuse the hair after putting it in there. Another curl cream that we have is the Curls Rock Amplifier. So this is a more dense curl cream. It's a little bit heavier, so it's best for medium or coarse hair. Much like Foxy Curls, it conditions, moisturizes, smooths frizz, has jojoba oil for antioxidants, and then vitamin B5 to support movement and body in the hair. And lastly is the Foxy Curls Extreme Curl Mousse. Now this is going to be your firm hold product. I really like this one for medium to coarse textures, because the weight of the foam and the way it defines, creating that firm curl cast is going to give you curls that last the longest. We all love a hair that's soft to the touch, but when you have a curl cast, that's going to give you more longevity. And the longer you wear your curls, the cast will start to break down naturally. So yeah, it offers a degree of thermal protection, fights frizz, defines curls, and you would apply it onto damp hair. And if you decide after you diffuse the hair and it's still a little bit too crunchy for your liking, you can always just scrunch with your hands and then break that product cast. And so now I'm going to go back to my demo screen. Okay, so bearing in mind that a lot of your customers don't really opt for the shampoo, I'm gonna apply the product with the sprayer. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna put the different stylers in different sections so you can see the difference and how they sit on the hair.
Megan is really glad that you're doing a rounded cut like this so that they can feel more comfortable trying something out. Loving the look.
Thank you.
And some serious love for Foxy Curls in the chat.
Honestly, the contour cream is my mom's favorite. So she's always trying to hit me up for my stash I have at the salon. So I personally really like the hair to be wet all the way through. Then you would take your wide tooth comb, start combing out from the bottom. You never want to start combing curly hair from the root because it'll catch, and that's uncomfortable for your client. And so hold the hair firmly, comb through, work your way up. I just did exactly the opposite of what I said. So, all right, we've got this comb through. That nice little curl pattern here. So we're gonna start with the contour cream. Gonna do one pump. Hopefully I won't drop it because my hands are slippery now. So that was actually not even a whole pump. That was half. Lightweight texture. Gonna emulsify it in your hands and then work it through the hair. I do like to go through in sections like this to make sure that every strand is coated. And at this part, you don't have to worry about stretching the curls out because you'll reset them as you're styling and drying. So I personally use a Felicia Leatherwood detangling brush at my salon, but your regular Denman brush is super accessible and definitely still works for this. So for styling, you are going to work in sections. And so from the bottom, brush, and then with firm tension, just brush all the way down. And you see how the curls just popped up like that? That's what you're looking for. And so we don't want to disrupt them. We got them the way you like it, leave them alone. So I'm going to go one more section. And then when I get closer to the root, I like to brush under so that we're creating lift at the scalp. We brush this down. Look at those curls. So that is what you get with the contour cream. And one thing you really want to keep in mind when you're working with curly hair is how it looks wet is going to inform how it looks dry. So if you see any frizz while you're working on it and it's wet, it's going to dry with frizz. So I would always say start adding more water before you go for more products, because you don't want to feel the product build up on the hair. Curls love water, so never too much.
Comment is from Andrea, game changer with the Denman brush.
My daughter loves the Denman brush. Yeah, for sure. And also, some people with looser curl patterns, they'll benefit from finger coiling, and I can show you that on this section. I personally don't like to finger coil because you're creating a pattern. And my goal with my curly setting, I like to showcase the natural pattern that's there. But again, it's all open to what your customer wants. Finger coiling the hair is going to create more curl. It's also going to create more shrinkage. So it'll make their hair look shorter. So that's something they need to keep in mind. Okay, so we've got that nice and wet here. Bring out my first section. Actually, we're going to do the Curls Rock amp on this side. One pump, it's more than enough. You see that's a heavier texture than the contour cream. I'm going to rub that between my hands and apply it to the hair. And in her case, maybe a little bit on her face, but you know, don't want to do that to your guest, your customer. Okay, so I'm going to use the Denman brush on this part and then show you finger coiling up here. Brush down. Brush down. Got some excellent curl definition, and you can always just kind of bounce the curls to get them to spring up a little bit more. And so here we go for finger coils. You can always just kind of twirl and create curls like that. For something a little bit more defined. Some people will also try this method. They'll take it and roll it over so that you get a curl all the way at the root and then unwind. But this is my preferred method to finger coil.
And we've got another comment from Elaine. Elaine loves finger coiling for sections of clients' hair that isn't as curly as the rest.
Yes, it's excellent for that. And then, so I didn't scrunch this at all. So this is just the normal elongation. You can start to add more bounce to the curls and scrunch them. I don't know if you can hear it, but it makes like a squish noise, like marsh. That's what you want to hear, because then you know you've got enough water and enough product on your customer's hair. All right, let's go around to the back. And then I'm going to demo the mousse right here. I don't need such a huge section. I'm going to be mindful of your time today. You know, we're getting close to the 1 hour mark. And if you're combing through and you get dry spots, you definitely want to hit those with the water also, because your product's not going to work as well on hair that's not wet enough. I want to be a little bit rough with her. She's not going to complain. Okay, so for the Foxy Curls mousse, you're going to want to shake this well, because it comes out pretty fast. Get a nice light texture here. And then just apply this to the hair. Now, don't be misled. This disappears into the hair, and so it feels like you really didn't put any in there. If you overdo it, their hair will be super hard. So, you know, just be mindful of how much you apply. And I'm going to do the Denman brush here. Come on, girl. She needs a deep treatment. And I personally prefer brush styling when I use mousse. And if I'm going to finger coil, I like to use cream. All right, here we go. So for any of these products, you can let your clients air dry. They won't have as much bounce to their hair. It'll dry with more elongation, but I'm going to quickly demonstrate diffusing on this section right here. So you're going to want to start on low fan speed, high heat. And you're just going to hover over the hair until your product cast starts to form. The goal is to move the hair around as little as possible, because movement creates frizz. You also want to avoid touching it before the cast happens, because that makes frizz as well. That's one of the hardest parts for me, because I want to touch it and I want to fluff it, but it's not time yet. For the sake of time, I'm going to kick the fan speed up. And because I do this so frequently, I actually use 2 dryers at my salon. So I'm like this, which cuts my time in half. So your product cast is starting to form. You can, can't really see the difference, but you can feel it. And this is when you can have your client start to lean either forwards, backwards, sideways. So you can use gravity to your benefit to help with the drying and create more volume. This is when you can start scoop diffusing. Oh, when you do that, you want to turn your your heat down to medium. You don't want to do this on high, probably because you'll burn your client. I do not aggressively diffuse like this. That makes frizz. Very gentle. Okay, again, you can't really see it, but the product cast is starting to form. I don't want it to be crunchy to the touch. So I'm going to start scrunching while I'm drying, because that's going to break the product cast. And then also the hair that's kind of trapped in under there is going to make sure that is dry as well.
Kia, just a couple of questions, if you can
Sure.
hear me.
Yeah, I'll turn the AC down.
Okay, great. So what temperature setting did you say that you're using on the blow dryer?
I start out low fan speed, high heat when you're hovering. And then once you start getting closer to your client's scalp, that's when I put it on medium.
Okay, and then second question, for shorter hair, such as the trending style for young guys, can you follow the same sectioning technique to achieve a rounded look specifically on the top?
Let's see. Can you describe the haircut for me? Like, what does it look like? There's a picture you can put in the chat. I can jump in there and see what you're talking about. Okay. So this section is completely dry. Check out the curls we got. Look at that shine, no frizz. And then, of course, when when you want to create some volume, you want to shake the hair out. So I had the guests lean all the way forward and shake at the roots. Frizz is your volume, but you want to create your frizz on the inside just to start building that volume. Now, you've got awesome, nice bouncy curls here because we chose to diffuse. But if your client decided that they wanted to just air dry, their curls would dry at about right there with not much shrinkage. So before we go to advising your client on what to do with it at that time, do we have any questions about the diffusing process?
We do have, Louise came back and let us know on the haircut,
Yeah.
short on the sides, rounded on top.
Honestly, yes. You can use the same pattern and just kind of be mindful of your elevation depending on what they want it to look like. Like, do they, is their hair like looser so it'll just kind of like lay down kind of floppy in like a curly bowl cut? That's definitely still a rounded cut.
Okay, yeah, Luis is saying it's a fade haircut. The sides are trimmed short while the top is styled with curly and rounded hair.
Uh-huh. What did I say I was going to show you? Oh yes, what to do with the hair at night. So a lot of times, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my deck. So I'm going to mute this one. Thank you so much for all of your help with switching my spotlight and stuff. All right, back to the deck. So this is how a lot of people with loose curls would do a pineapple. You would just kind of tilt forward, use a scarf, and just tie the hair up. Some people also do it with a scrunchie. My daughter has curls similar to hers, and she actually prefers to do a scarf so that it doesn't stretch out the curls in the back too much. Some people also just put all of their curls inside a bonnet and just shake it out in the morning. You can also combine these two. So you do a pineapple and then you put a bonnet over the top to keep these curls from getting frizzy. And then for shorter hair, you can do mini pineapples. So these are all satin scrunchies. A lot of times they'll do 4 or 5 and it looks absolutely nuts. But what it does, it keeps the roots stretched out and then leaves the exterior curls free so that when you shake it loose, your hair isn't like compacted or anything like that. And so now we are at Q&A, just a little bit over, but I'm looking at the chat now, so let me know if you have any questions. All right, if not, sharing my jet. Oh, okay, that's the YouTube. Okay, let me see. You can reach me at Quia Querisma at gmail.com. It's my full name at gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram at Quia Loves Hair. That's QUIA loves _hair. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all. And if there's nothing else, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I hope you learned a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Quia, and thanks everyone for joining.